Good day everyone, Complaining Gamer here. Cemu 1.11.4 is now out and available if you're a Patreon supporter. That means it's time to get testing. 1.11.4 boasts an up to 10% reduction in RAM usage. Let's see if that's true using Zelda Breath of the Wild as our comparison game between Cemu versions 1.11.3 and 1.11.4. The way we'll do this is by using the on-screen display feature of MSI Afterburner in conjunction with RiverTuner Statistics Server. It will show CPU, FPS, GPU and RAM utilization. Let's dive in, then discuss the results after. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is break down the information gained so that it's easy to understand and is more digestible. First of all, I was using a shader cache of 9724. Now I have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM running at 2133 megahertz. For these tests, I decided to turn off my page file just to focus on physical RAM, and I made sure that there were no extra applications running. We do need to equate for system services running and NVIDIA Shadowplay, which was capturing the screen. However, it is quite a light application. Now, Cemu 1.11.4 boasts up to a 10% reduction in RAM usage. Now, when I use my shader cache of 9724, typically on Cemu 1.11.3, I was seeing anything from 12 to 13 to 14 gigabytes of physical RAM being used at any one time. The fantastic thing about Cemu 1.11.4 is that I can confirm that there is a reduction in RAM usage. Now, the success of that seems to vary depending on location, as you can see on screen between Hyrule Field, Talonai Shrine, Kakariko Village and Hateno Village. Now, whilst any improvement, no matter how small, is always very much welcome, I was convinced I could do more. It should be noted that GX2 Drawdone found in Options and Experimental, which actually helps with things like NPCs and runes, does still see a 10 to 15 FPS decrease when used. However, Cemu does have a very cool trick up its sleeve called Accurate Shader Mul equals min. If you've never heard of this, it's actually quite a fairly well-known game profile edit, which actually sees a reduction in RAM usage and VRAM usage. Given that my goal was maximum RAM reduction alongside the Cemu 1.11.4 improvements, it was a logical step to actually put this into my game profile. It's very easy to do. You simply find the Breath of the Wild game profile. For the US, it's C9 400. For EU, it's C9 500. And you basically type just below the graphics line, accurate shader mul space equals space min, and that's it. Then you load the game and it will rebuild the cache. Now, the idea is that this leads to less accurate shaders. However, there has been no obvious signs of any negative effects when using this profile edit. So ultimately, there's no reason to not use it given the benefits it provides. In terms of cache construction, I'm using the GL cache only method where the pre-compiled folder is ignored. For those of you with very keen eyes, you may have noticed in the Gerudo Desert clip, we actually saw up to a 900 megabyte reduction in RAM. Therefore, I chose that area to see how far we could take it. Before displaying the effects of the edits, I should add that Cemu was running in dual core recompiler mode using a low buffer cache accuracy and an unlocked FPS++ with a 1080 resolution pack along with clarity and NVIDIA control panel tweaks. Jumping right into Cemu 1.11.3 with accurate shader mul equals min, we can immediately see a difference from 13 gigabytes of RAM all the way down to 10. So just by changing that edit, we have decreased RAM usage by 3 gigabytes. In addition to that, I'm going to use the Razer Cortex boost feature, which is going to free up even more RAM just to see how low we can go. If you've never heard of Razer Cortex, why not give it a try and see if it helps you out with a bit more of that RAM. As you can see by ending a few services, Razer Cortex immediately freed up a further gigabyte, taking us all the way down to around 9 gigabytes of RAM used. Let's try using the same tools on Cemu 1.11.4. Once again, just before we activate Cortex, take note of the significantly reduced RAM thanks to accurate shader mul equals min. Razer Cortex in combination with the game profile edit gets us all the way down to 8 gigabytes of RAM used. Now, for some of you, that might not be a huge achievement, but if we go to my system and my specific usage, I was seeing all the way up to 14 gigabytes of RAM utilization. So in the tests here, we can see a high of 13 gigabytes in Cemu 1.11.3, all the way down to 8 gigabytes in Cemu 1.11.4 with the relevant edits. That's a difference of 5 gigabytes. You may also notice that I close Razer Cortex. That's just to eliminate any additional programs and free up perhaps just a bit more RAM. By the way, you don't have to use that program. Most of you will be absolutely fine just using the game profile edit. The reason I used Razer Cortex was because I wanted to see how far I could push my RAM reduction. If you're curious, time of day had little to no effect on RAM used, and as a bonus point, accurate shader mul equals min also seems to help limit the impact of GX2 draw done. I even found that when I turned off all graphic packs, there was shockingly no impact to FPS when activating GX2 draw done. So what did we learn? Long story short, does Cemu 1.11.4 reduce RAM? The answer is yes, and with a few extra tricks, we can take it even further. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, leave a like, it always helps out the channel. If you didn't, thumbs down, and of course, as always, if you like my content, maybe consider subscribing.